Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. If you're someone like me and you're in your 50s or 60s or older, you spent a lot of decades in the sunshine, maybe you find yourself at the dermatologist's office a few times a year, and the dermatologist sees a bump or a spot on your skin somewhere and says, hey, I had better cut this off and send it into the lab to make sure it's not dangerous. And then they cut you and they sew you up, and if it's on your face, maybe they leave a scar. This video is going to show you how you can avoid having to go under the knife for most of these kinds of skin problems. And all of these spots that I've had cut out, they've either been basal cell carcinoma or squamous cell carcinoma, both of which are fairly common and are slow growing and generally not life-threatening, certainly not the most dangerous kind, which is melanoma. So now, I am someone who avoids drugs as much as humanly possible. They can be dangerous. They can have side effects. Often they really don't do what they're supposed to. But one drug that I do like and endorse, although I'm not being paid or anything, is called Aldara. And I've had things removed here and there, including on my face. So far, nothing serious, knock on wood. But recently, a friend of mine, a physician who I consult with when I want really good medical advice, someone whose initials are John McDougall, John suggested I deal with the dermatology questions without surgery using this drug, Aldara. You need a prescription for it. I decided to use it on my face. There were a couple of places that the dermatologist had said, you know, we need to keep an eye on these. Usually that means she's going to cut them out on the next appointment. So I decided to try Aldara on my face. Basically, Aldara is an ointment that when you put it on your face, it creates inflammation in places by activating your own body's immune system, but it only activates it in the places where you have carcinomas, where there's some skin cancer. If you don't have any cancerous or precancerous skin, it doesn't do anything. Anywhere you have problem skin, it attacks and your skin gets inflamed, again, by your own immune system, which attacks and destroys the bad cells. Look at that on my forehead. Look over here. Look at what she's doing there. But anyhow, this is about a week out into the Aldara. That's what your skin looks like. It looks terrible. Like you wouldn't do this before some public event that you had to appear at. So here's a couple of photos of me when I first tried it. You can see there were a few different areas that reacted and started getting inflamed and crusty. I treated each of these areas every night for about 10 days, putting the Aldara on each spot, and it got more and more inflamed. I was sending photos every few days to Dr. McDougall of my face, and then at one point he said, okay, stop. That was after maybe 10 days of treatment. It took another 2 weeks for the scabs to heal and the skin to get smooth again. When I went in for a checkup after that, my dermatologist said, oh, these areas that we needed to keep an eye on, she said they looked okay. She didn't need to cut anything, so it worked. At that same appointment, she found a spot on the back of my neck. She took a sample and later said the biopsy made her want to remove it. It was basal cell carcinoma. So when I went in and she cut it, you can see here there are 5 staples she put in after the surgery. There's like 5 or 6 days post-surgery, and I had to have these removed after a couple of weeks. When I mentioned this to Dr. McDougall, he said, why didn't you use the Aldara on that? He's right. I should have done that. Somehow I figured if she found something, you know, and then wanted to cut it, I went along with that. But next time I'm going to use Aldara as the first line because there's really no reason to take the time, annoyance, expense of surgery when you can have your own immune system take care of the problem. Now, I was curious whether the Aldara would be as permanent as surgery. Your immune system takes out the cancer, but does it come back? Is surgery better? Maybe. To answer that, Dr. McDougall sent me this study. They did a 5-year follow-up study with Aldara. They had 55 subjects with basal cell carcinoma, put them in 2 groups, had different treatment times. One group got Aldara 3 times a week for 8 weeks. The other group got it 5 times a week for 5 weeks. They did biopsies a couple of times during and after the treatment, and then again at 5 years. So first they found that 76% of the participants had no signs of skin cancer 6 weeks after the Aldara treatment. They had them come back at 5 years, and they found that only 2% of the people who had used Aldara, only 2% saw a recurrence of their skin cancer. So it was very low. 98% who used Aldara had no recurrence after 5 years. They show photos of one of the subjects, and it's pretty much similar to mine. Mine was actually probably worse. Let me mention that the study was conducted and paid for by the maker of Aldara, so it's always important to be mindful of possible bias in industry research. Dr. McDougall has written about Aldara. This is from a newsletter he did in 2005. He wrote, "Results are exceptionally effective. Even the cancers disappear. Cream is applied every day or every other day until an eruption occurs like poison oak." Dr. McDougall on his discussion board said Aldara is rarely used because more profit is in surgery and liquid nitrogen. I will leave links to this in the description. So that's Aldara. I'm due to treat my face again for a couple of weeks and see if there's anything it didn't get the first time. If you have skin issues from too much sunshine, or if you've tried Aldara, leave me a comment about your experience. If you like the video, please give it a like. See you next time. Thanks.